This presentation is about WordPress configuration, although we should be configuring WordPress practically, not on presentations, but I'm just going to show you how we configure WordPress. Now there's a quote up there by Lily Cole. As users of the internet, we all have a role to play in defining what we want it to be. Stan mentioned something about users of your website. Okay, so we ourselves, we are also using this site, but we have a specific roles in this website here. So WordPress basically has certain types of users. Okay. The most powerful one being the administrator, which has all these permissions listed here, and then as you go down the line, your permission sort of decreases in number. Okay. So administrators has all the privileges, all the rights, and anything, basically anything and everything to do with his or her website. Okay. And then you have editor, author, contributor, and then subscriber, which is basically no permission at all. Okay. So the way in which we've set up this workshop now is basically to eliminate some of the most common issues that we've been facing for the last couple of years. The main one being a security issue. Okay. The other one being the updating of plugins and themes. Okay. So the main issue is to eliminate this and let SPC takes care of these things. Okay. Because you as a administrator of your own site, like you said, maybe you have only 1 hour to work on your site in a week. Okay. So this setup here, you have the super administrators, which basically has a much more permissions than a site administrator. Okay. Now a network super administrator keeps WordPress core, plugins, themes, and plugins up to date for all WordPress sites at once. Okay. Basically means you have a top level site, and then you have sub-sites within it. Okay. So the top level site is where the network super administrator looks after. Okay. And then you have the site administrators that configure their website the way they want to, including plugin options, theme customization, user management, page and post content. Okay. So you can see on this table provided here, you have site administrator, which has very minimal permissions here. They manage users, enable themes, and enable plugins. Okay. They don't have the option to install a new plugin or add a new theme and update the WordPress core and do other permissions that are listed here. Okay. So if you need to install new themes or plugins, you will have to contact a super administrator, okay, which is in this case, maybe you have to contact Stan. Okay. So you get the idea of how this setup works. Okay. We have a main site, and then within this network of the main site, you have subdomains of it. Okay. It's not specifically subdomains, but subsites of it. Okay. If you can see this training .nso.spc, okay, it's basically part of a network site. Okay. So you have here my sites. You see you have a list of sites here, okay, which is basically managed by a network super administrator. Basically look after all the sites here, updates the WordPress core and all the plugins in it. Okay. So in your users menu on your dashboard, okay, so make sure you get these terms correct. This, what you're looking at now, is a dashboard. Okay, that's a WordPress dashboard. So you go into the left side, we have all these menus within the dashboard. Okay. So if we go to users, we click on users, we have a sub menu of users on your left hand side, which displays all users, add new user, and view your profile. Okay. So if you click on add users, it will list all the users that are actually present in that site. Okay. So user meaning it can be an administrator, it can be an editor or a contributor, a subscriber. Okay. So it will list everything here. So if it displays the name and the roles. If they've created some posts in this site, then it lists them here. When was the last time they logged in? I pretty much like this sort of last part there, the last time they've logged in. It basically tells you also that the last time you logged in and updated your site was this time ago. Okay. Adding a new user to your site. Why would you add a new user to your site? So maybe you have someone that's working under you now. Okay. And maybe you want to just give him a bit of access to access the site and update the content. You don't want to give him the whole privilege to update the WordPress core and do all these other things that the administrator does. So you go and you create a new user. And the way you do it is you click on Users menu. You click on the Add New here. And then you just basically fill out whatever that's there. Okay? The email, the role. You can change it to administrator, contributor, editor, or subscriber. Okay? And that's existing user. Okay? And you can also add a new user as well. Just here. Now, you fill the form, add new user. Don't forget to select the role of the user. It's very important. Okay. So if you want to create someone that has full control over your site, but then you forgot to select the role and you just left him there as a subscriber, then he does nothing. Okay. So this role is important. So once you add new user, an email is sent to your user to confirm the email address and give access to the website. So whatever email address that you entered here, the site will send a sort of like a configuration email to the user that you've created. Okay. Each of you have a site already up there for this workshop. So it's listed according to your countries. And you will basically receive something like this from Stan, hopefully tonight. And you can log into your WordPress site and we can have a look at it. Managing users. Okay, manage users. Firstly, select users by checking the corresponding box. Now, why would you want to manage users? What's the whole reason why? Okay. So if you remember, Stan presented something ago about WordPress being the most targeted site for hackers. Okay. So that's one of these ways that you can actually prevent users from coming into your site. Okay. If you don't have this sort of security in place, then sometimes you will notice that when you go in, you will see that there's a list of users that I have not created and I don't know about. Okay. So you can manage users by deleting those users or blocking them or do whatever you want with them. So you have a list of options here to update a user role, to block a user, remove a user, and delete a user. Okay. Now, removing and deleting are not the same. Yeah? Remove user is basically an administrative option that, because we are using a network setup for WordPress, we have this option here. So it basically unlink user from the website. For example, if I have a user there like Billy Somers and I want to remove that user from a website, okay, within our network setup here, then we remove this user from using that link here or that option here. Okay. And then delete user. Deleting user accounts can only be done by network administrator, okay, and it may delete content created by user, okay, depending on the options selected. Now, what if you forgot your password, okay, or you lost it? Okay. Users who forgot the password should follow the lost password procedure. Okay. Site administrators cannot reset password, only network administrator can. Okay. Meaning if you lost your password, or if you lose your password, or you forgot your password, then you might have to ask Stan, hey, I lost my password, I cannot access my site. So, yeah. And this is how you do it. There's an option just below the login form of the backend. So there's an option there to say, if you lose your password, then you click on this option and enter username, and then the process continues from there. It will ask you to create a new password again. Yeah. General settings. The more up-to-date the information, the more valuable it is. Now, you might be looking at all of these settings here and thinking, why do we need to know about all this nitty-gritty of WordPress? You know, how does it benefit us? If you work on WordPress for some time and you look at the settings, most of the default settings are pretty much what they're going to be. They will just stay the same. Unless you want specific changes to be done, then you go into the settings and you have a look at them. Oh, general settings, what do I go and I change there? Site name, language, time zone, regional format. Okay. Writing, you just default options when writing posts. Okay. One of the default options that writing in WordPress settings, or the general settings, is whenever you create a post, it automatically goes into a category called uncategorized. So that's the default setting. So if you want to change that option, then you create a new category, and then you go to the writing option, and then you click on the drop-down and you select, or when I create a new post, put that post into maybe census or NSO, something like that. Whichever new category you select, then it will update it. Reading, more site settings and blog options, discussions for comments, and I don't think we'll be using this. Media, basically the settings regarding media, example, thumbnails, image sizes. If you want to resize them, that's the option that you use. Permalinks, how URL to pages and posts looks like. Okay. Now this is one of the settings that we will actually change as we go by. Because the default setting for WordPress with permalinks are just, it looks ugly, by the way. Okay. And it's one of the things that you must be cautious about when looking at URLs, because that's the basic thing that Google uses to crawl through your site as well. They index your site using your links. Okay. If you have something like date sorted and all this, it doesn't make any sense. So you must have a proper permalinks for Google to index your site as well. Okay. WP Media plugin, there's a media folder. There's a plugin that's installed to manage the media files. Okay. So WordPress by default has some kind of way to organize your media contents. Okay. It just places them in just one folder, and then so this plugin helps to sort out all these things. So you can create new folders and all these things. Okay. And then you have nested pages, okay, which is a plugin as well. So the last two, WP Media folder and nested pages, shows up if you have these two plugins installed, and we have it installed. That's why it's showing up. So basically, we just talk briefly about this writing settings and all these reading settings here. Okay. Like I've mentioned earlier, you only need to change them if you see that it's not really up to my liking. So I'm going to go and change how the reading settings looks like. Okay. So if you come here, and by default, when you create your first WordPress site or content, it will just show the front page as a post. Okay. And you say, I want to change my static or the home page to be something different. So this is where you come and you change it. Okay. You come to reading, you select your home page display, and then you say a static page, and then you select the page that you want it to be as the home page. Okay. So once the home page is created, you will have the option to select home page and post page options accordingly. Pretty much all other options can be overwritten by the Gutenberg editor and Divi team. Okay. We will talk about the Gutenberg editor and DVTim, so don't worry about them. Do not forget to untick the last option about search engine, or your website will not appear on Google and others. Okay, here. So search engine visibility. So if it is checked, make sure you uncheck it. Okay? Because if you check it, then Google won't index your site. And it's very bad for your site if you do that. Okay, so discussion settings. Allowing an open discussion on your website requires moderation and a strong anti-spam system. Okay. Moderation is very time-consuming, requires clear guidelines on how to deal with your visitors' comments. Okay. Now, unless you are doing a forum or something like that, something similar to a forum, then a commenting system is much applicable here. But for our case, it's not really necessary for us to include, allow users to come and comment on our data or something, We have media settings. Okay. By default, the home page only lists latest post. You will want to customize this. Okay. Once the home page is created, you will have so the media settings is basically not this text, but it's what we've talked about. You organize your contents. You give them a certain width and height for your thumbnails, the medium size and the largest size that you want to crop accordingly. Okay. Permalinks. We have the option for changing permalinks. As I've told you earlier, these are the common settings for permalinks. You have plain, day and name, month and name, numeric, post name, and custom structure. Okay. By default, it uses something like this, which doesn't really make a lot of sense if you look at it. It just lists everything as date and then the name of your post. What we really want is something like this, post name. Okay? So it's much easier to read, and it gives you straight away the name of your post, and it's very convenient. Okay. URLs are actually quite important part of search engine optimization, or SEO. So you might double check these settings depending on the type of content you publish. Okay. For instance, leave the option default day and name if you publish very often, but simply use post name or category and post name if you publish less than once a month. Okay. Try not to change those settings once site is published, as it will create broken links. Okay. So before you sort of go in and create your content, make sure you come in and have a look at the settings if you feel like you want to change it. This is the plugin that's being installed on our setup here, the WP media folder. Okay. So WordPress core is a very basic way of handling media that includes images, videos, sounds, etc. You may want to enable the WP media folder to have more features such as organize media files in folders, better image galleries, duplicate or replicate media files, add watermark, and remote videos from other sources like YouTube. Okay. This plugin offers many different options, which we will see in details in another presentation. Okay. Nested page plugin settings. Okay. The nested plugin displays a list of pages as a tree, nested, okay? And it allows you to easily move pages around or even duplicate them. In a very typical WordPress setup, it's one of the hassles that most of us went through. Okay? So you create one page and then you have tons of pages to create, and you don't have this option to quickly create pages on the go. You have to create and then you save that page, and then you have to create another one and save. So this plugin actually helps a lot in doing that. So you just create how many pages you want to create on the go, and then it creates everything at the same time. Okay. And you can even move the pages around, create nests, and do other options like that. Okay. Optionally, you may change settings to enable nested listing for other content types, example posts. change sync options, add sorting feature to editors. This is recommended. And custom admin menu item orders. Okay. Other than the feature sorting, modify other settings is not recommended. Okay. So what we've just gone through are basically the settings of the WordPress. This is basically the general settings of WordPress. Okay. So now we're going to move into Divi, which is the theme that we'll be using for our websites. And we're going to look at some of the options that the Divi theme offers, okay, apart from the ones that WordPress does offer. Okay. Now, there's a quote from Robert Half, American businessman and writer. It's easy to make good decisions when there's no bad options. Okay. The theme options for Divi. Okay. Now, I know we haven't actually talked about Divi itself. What really is Divi? We will going to have a look at what Divi is, but let's just look at some of the options that Divi provides for us. Okay. So, why did we choose to use the Divi theme by Elegant Themes? It's one of the most popular WordPress theme on the market right now. It was built by Elegant Themes. There's regular update and it's very flexible. Yeah. You'll see what we mean by very flexible as we move through. Okay. Although Gutenberg editor is trying to kill the need for page builders, Divi still offers more options than WordPress standard installation. Okay. So you ask, what's the catch? Okay. Flexibility is complexity. So there are tons of options available and it can be cumbersome to set them right. Okay. So basically, if you can look up at the screenshot there, you have general options, navigation, builder, layout, ads, SEO, integration, and updates. Okay. You might be saying, that's a lot of menus for me to follow and to keep track of and, to have them all in my head right now. Okay. This is what it means by the flexibility, the amount of flexibility that you have, it becomes very hard for you to manage if you go along. Okay. And when you become pro at it, when you become an expert at it, then you will know where to go to find what you really need to do for your site. So the first option is the logo. So it lets you upload your own logo there. Okay. The recommended size would be the width of 120 and your height of 60. It also enables you to have this feature where you have the fixed navigation bar. Okay. So a fixed navigation bar is when you scroll down a website and your menu bar just sticks on top of your site and it doesn't disappear. It just sticks there and then you have all the content sliding up. Okay. So that's a fixed navigation. You have a color picker's default palette, which lets you select common colors you will use. And this also helps you to have a consistent design. Okay. So it also allows you to grab the first post image. Enable this if you want to avoid using feature image. Okay. That's one of the components of WordPress that we will talk about, feature image. Okay. You also are given this option to change your blog style. Okay. You leave this disabled unless you want to change, or unless you want to show full contents of your site, of your blog posts in the blog pages. Okay. This all might sound quite gibberish to you, but I promise you will understand once we dive into it and we have a look at all this content and what style are we talking about, or what's feature image, and what actually are we talking about here. Okay. Sidebar layout. It gives you the option to select the position of your sidebar, whether you want it to be on the left side, you want it to be on the right side. Okay. And here we have quite a definition of sidebars. Okay. Sidebars are used to add common elements to pages, such as secondary navigation menu, latest post, contact information, and etc., like what we have on the side here. Okay. This is basically a sidebar for a menu, okay, maybe a secondary menu or something like that. And then on the side here we have a contact. So those are basically sidebar. And like I said, you have the option of moving it to left or right. Okay. So most people read a page from left to right. So sidebars improves navigation while, or left sidebars improve navigation while right sidebars focuses on the content of the page. And then you have options like Google Maps, social icons, number of posts, date formats, use excerpts. Okay. So you most probably want to disable these options. Google Map is not free anymore. That's sad. Social icons, if you want to add Facebook links or Twitter or Instagram. So this is where you add those links on the options page for social icons on Divi. Okay. And then you have the number of posts. So select number of posts you want to show on a page. Not too many, not too few. It's okay. Date format. So it can be set by WordPress itself. Okay. And the use of excerpts. Make sure you write excerpts instead of leaving WordPress to cut your contents automatically. Does anyone know what excerpts mean? Yes? No? A bit? Some ideas? Okay. So excerpts are basically sort of like a text that you put out there for your post or your content page. So it's basically a sort of like, it tells the reader what's in that post or what's in that page. Okay. So we use excerpts to, inform the reader about the content of the page. It's more like an abstract of what you are trying to show or give to the readers. So instead of you letting WordPress cut your content, let's say WordPress will say, I will count up to 150 words and then I will cut it from there and show it as excerpt. Okay. Most of the time, it's really not a good idea. You can use excerpt for this. Okay. So you write a bit of abstract that tells your readers or your users what your content is about. Okay. That's the basic idea behind the excerpts. Responsive short codes. Okay. You would want to, you want your website to be responsive, okay, to work on mobile devices. I think Stan has sort of explained what responsiveness means on devices. Okay. The other term, the short codes, are basically sort of like a, how would I put short codes for you to understand? It's more like it links a content to your page, but it uses some form of syntax to do that. Okay. Basically, a plugin maybe comes with a shortcode that basically does that for you. Okay. So for example, if we show that page on this page here, this little component here uses shortcode to get those information from a plugin and put it on a page. So we'll go through how you can get these shortcodes and put it anywhere you want on a page, depending on which content you want to be on a page that you want it to be. Google font subsets. You don't need this unless you write in non-Latin characters, Arabic or Chinese. Back to top button. So useful if you have a long page and no fixed navigation bar. Okay. So it's usually maybe on the left or on your right side. Okay. Smooth scrolling effects when scrolling with the mouse wheel. Okay. So you don't have it, like it doesn't go and it stops. It continues to flow as you move the mouse wheel. Disable translation. If you have a multi-language website, then you use this option to disable responsive images. Yes. Minify and combine JS or JavaScript. Yes. And minify and combine CSS. Okay. And then you have custom. These are sort of like basically some advanced stuff that if you pursue more into web development, then you may understand what this minify and combine JS and minify and combine CSS, those kind of terms. Okay. CSS, leave blank unless you know what you're doing. Okay. So all these options should be enabled to improve mobile device support and to reduce page loading time. Now, most of these options are enabled by default with Divi. Okay. So logo, you add or upload your new logo, which you should. You can enable the fixed navigation bar, and so this is a fixed navigation bar. The bar stays up there, it does not disappear, but you can scroll through your content. Okay. And enable Divi gallery, which is disabled by default. You have this color pickers default palette. So basically the common colors that we can use. And then you have these other options here. Grab the first post image, block style, sidebar layout. Okay. Now, you might be asking this question of when do I actually come in and I sort of change this content or these settings here. Okay. Now, like I said, it depends on how you go with your design on a page. Okay. So if you want 10 blogs to be listed on your home page, and you come in here and you change settings here to accommodate for that. Okay. So these are the social links. Okay. As you can see, you have a huge number of options to play around with. Okay. The next part is navigation. Okay. For the most part, you would sort of want your navigation to be controlled by WordPress. Okay. So here you have, exclude pages from navigation. So if you uncheck this one, then it doesn't show on the menu. This gets a little bit it's a bit daunting if you try to understand your navigations with Divi and then you understand navigations with WordPress again. You will get confused. Okay. So most of these settings here, we can. Should we go through all of them?
Or just two.
Yeah, I mean, if I just open this tab here, you can see that there's a bit of settings that you can go through and you customize according to your own liking. Okay, but I'm pretty sure we will not go through all of them. I think we should not go through all of them. Okay, because it's a lot than what we should talk about, which is basically our structure and content of our site. Okay. Now we've looked at navigation. Now we're going to look at navigation. This gives you the option to exclude pages or categories from the navigation. By default, Divi creates navigation menus automatically when you create your content. Okay, so when you create a page, it automatically add them to a menu. These settings allows you to extend items from the menu, but you will have to come back to this screen every time you create a new page or category if you don't want it to appear in the navigation. Okay. And like I said, or you can define your navigation from appearance and menu, okay, which we will talk about in this content structure presentation. Okay. And then within navigation, you have show drop-down, display home link, sort page category links, order pages, and category links. And then a number of drop-down tiles shown. Okay. Show drop-down menus basically enables you to, when you hover over something or click on a navigation menu, it shows you the drop-down list. Enable if you don't want to create a custom home page. Okay. So it's default, but it's disabled by default. Sort page, categories, links. The way pages are ordered. Okay. Recommended menu. So we'll come to that later on. Pages and category links. Okay. So you can sort them, or the recommended order is the ascending, okay, and the number of drop-down tiles shown, okay, which is recommended to just only 2. So within navigation, I think there's 3 tabs here. So these are the ones that we are talking about. So in pages, then in categories, you have all this, and then general settings. In general settings tab, under navigation, you have disabled top tier drop-down menu links. If you don't want top pages to be clickable in your drop-down menus. Okay. Alternative scroll to anchor method, enabled to improve scroll positions to anchor. Like I said, some of the settings are just there for you to use if you want to use. Okay. But don't worry, we won't actually, if you want to, we can go through all the menus and all the options and see how they work. Okay? We will try our best to just give you something very lightweight and easy for you to understand, so you can just work on your content, focus on your content without less concentration on the settings and all these kind of things.